To discuss the situation in Myanmar, I'm joined live from Basel in Switzerland by Dr. Anita Schug, who's the co-founder of the Rohingya Medics Organisation. Dr. Schug, thank you for joining me. Thank you. Now, can you start by just describing for us the current situation in Myanmar? What's happening there?
Since 1st of February, now we are having 6 weeks. It means 41 days. And the military is determined to brutally crack down on the peaceful protesters. But at the same time, the public is also extremely determined not to live under the military boots. And therefore, we are seeing civilian casualties. Military is violently cracking down on civilians. So far, 80 people have died, and from 80 people, 14 are unfortunately children. There have been mass arrests, mass detained. More than 2,000 have been detained. So the military is actually terrorizing day and night.
And this is a word I've heard used several times about the military in Myanmar. They are almost waging a terror campaign. Is it true that they've been going into people's houses and shooting them? I've even seen pregnant women have been shot.
Yes, this pregnant lady, she has opened the compound door for the protesters, and actually she was targeted for giving safety to these protesters. The military, this is the military which is only trained to kill. It does not matter who's standing in front of them. When the orders from the top come, they will follow the command. And this is what exactly they are doing.
Now, Myanmar has sadly only recently experienced a kind of democracy under Aung San Suu Kyi, and that's been shattered by this coup. The protests against the coup started off in a fairly low-key way, with doctors particularly starting a disobedience campaign. How has the protest movement developed over the past 6 weeks?
The protest is non-stoppable. The international community has to applaud the courage the civilian disobedience movement is showing, the protesters are showing, and we will see more coming. They are not. The whole public is not ready to live again under the military regime, because they know the common enemy is the military, who has only interest in safeguarding its own institutions and the interests of the generals.
The Human Rights Council, the United Nations Human Rights Council, has been meeting, and a joint statement was issued by Rohingya groups to the Human Rights Council. What did they call for in their statement?
If you see the past history of Myanmar, the participation of the public, the participation of the NLD and Aung San Suu Kyi, it has been terrible towards the Rohingya community. If the military is at war with the ethnic minorities, the military, and with the help of the NLD government leadership, it has almost 80% of the Rohingya community has been derooted from the Arakan state. So most of our people are in exile. And we have seen in the past that despite of the Rohingya community participating in each and every major event, what is happening in Myanmar or previously in Burma, we have been betrayed by the public, betrayed by the leadership, and of course targeted and scapegoated by the military and our sister community in Rakhine state. So the solidarity we are showing in Myanmar right now is the right thing to do as people of Myanmar, but we are very much careful and concerned, because we fear that not only previously, there is a high possibility that we might be left out again. The leadership, the vice president and the CRPH, these groups are selectively reaching out to certain ethnic groups, but they have not extended their hands towards the Rohingya. And this is the concern, what the statement coming from the refugee camp has alerted or has raised alarm.
Alongside that, the UN can't close its eyes because its own special rapporteur, Thomas Andrews, has said that there's strong video evidence of the security forces viciously beating the protesters, destroying property, looting shops, firing indiscriminately into people's homes. And what's interesting, he also says that the Myanmar military that's doing this is the same military that's accused of human rights abuses committed in Rakhine State against the Rohingya minority. When will the UN stand up to this, and what must they do?
If we are looking at the actions of the UN and the Security Council, UN has done to a certain extent something, but it's not enough. And Security Council has been apologetic, and it has failed the Rohingyas, it is failing the nation, the people of Myanmar. We must not forget the UN Human Rights Council. It is not a government. Mm-hmm. So here the power lies, the real leverage lies within the UN governments. We have United States, we have Canada, we have United Kingdom. Canada has been very, very vocal for the in support of the Rohingya and people of Myanmar. President Joe Biden government is showing leadership, but these are very small. What should come right now are all governments who show concern or who wants to see democratic transition in Myanmar. They should have a united action towards the military. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the scenes we are seeing daily, we will be immune to seeing these scenes in the future.
You've already mentioned the countries that have cases at the International Court of Justice against the Myanmar military for the earlier genocide of the Rohingya. But also I see that Russia, with their spokesman Dmitry Peskov, has finally come out and described the situation as alarming. Is the international community, do you think, slowly beginning to understand the situation, and will they take action, or will they just make nice words into the future?
The international community, the UN Security Council, is very much aware of what is happening in Myanmar, not only now in 2017, but they lack the political will. And I think we should question the actions, the inactiveness of the UN Security Council. But at the same time, governments who want to see real democracy in Myanmar, want to support the public, they should find a way out of China and Russia vetoing at the Security Council.
And meanwhile, let's return finally to the people that are suffering this regime, suffering under this coup and the attacks whilst they're protesting against the situation. What is their future?
It is really difficult to say right now, but as Rohingya, what we have seen from our past persecution, we have been living not only since 2017, we have not lived only the genocide, but we have been persecuted for decades long. And if this military, under whom the genocide, war crimes have happened, if they're allowed to stay in power, they have already survived 6 weeks of power, a power grip. So I'm afraid that the human rights violation will escalate, people will be detained, and especially if we allow the military to stay in power, the military knows the public does not want them. They don't want to see them as the leader deciding their fate. So these people will be targeted, they will be detained, they will be imprisoned. So we will see a hush of democratic voice inside Myanmar for many coming years.
Well, that's a very sad situation, and let's hope that the international community stops talking and takes action. Dr. Anita Schug, thank you so much for joining me today here on A News. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.